Hi everyone and welcome to another pick a card reading. Today we have a very special subject. We are taking a look at how the upcoming total lunar eclipse slash super full moon is going to be influencing your life. And this is where it's not really about the astrology of this lunar eclipse, because at the end of the day, different people use different astrological systems. So in tropical Western astrology, it takes place in Sagittarius. For sidereal astrology, it's in a totally different place. So this is outside an astrological perception of this lunar eclipse, and it doesn't even need any astrology because an eclipse, especially a total lunar eclipse, brings a lot of culminations. It is like a karmic discharge, a really powerful manifestation of the energies that were at work in the cycle that is being closed. So this might be like a massive conclusion, a conclusion to the soul, to the mind, or to any other part of our beings, yet it is still extremely revelatory, and it is also a reset, because after this, we have to set the stage for the next cycle, basically. We can look at this as the end of a school year, where we already were or are still in an examination period, and the results of the exams reflect how well we did, and they also reflect our efforts. And also what is so very special about the total lunar eclipse, well, it is a moment when the veil between the worlds is that much thinner. So the spirit and everything that is beyond is that much closer to us, and ultimately it's also a full moon, so something is going to be revealed. The light of the moon is going to show us very important truth about ourselves, our lives, our karmic journeys. For each and every individual, maybe the theme is going to be different, yet the light is at its most powerful exactly because there was a brief moment when the light was cut off, a reset, as in the shadow blocked off all the light, the eclipse. Now all of us can sense, and we just kind of know in our hearts of hearts, that this eclipse is going to be extremely potent collectively, as in whatever will go on in the world. But it can be just as significant for us individually in our personal lives, especially because the moon is so very much involved in this. The moon is basically the superstar of this show, so that means that it's all about the soul. It is all about who we are at the very core of our beings. And when something big and karmic happens, with the soul, through the soul, involving the soul, by the soul, well, that is usually a life-changing event. Even if it's something purely internal, it is still very relevant, because let's just symbolically say that at a moment when the veil between the worlds is that much thinner, and the moon, the soul basically, is the superstar of everything, we're gonna be almost like possessed, if this makes sense, by our souls. So that means that we'll take action, make choices, or let's say process something internally, which will guide events in our lives in a specific direction where our soul wants to go, and not as much any other parts of our being. So the instructions for this pick a card are the same as always. Just look at the 5 piles of cards for a couple of seconds, or as long as you need to, and then choose the one which sparks up your intuitive senses the most. The timestamps can be found in the description below and also in the comment section. With this being said, thank you so much for listening to my work, and now let's get on to the interpretations. Hello everyone who has chosen the first pile. Your cards are the 7 of Swords, the 7 of Wands, 6 of Coins, and as a conclusion, the Lovers reversed. Now for you guys, this might come through as a really powerful, personal, soul-level epiphany, a very powerful spiritual and even psychological truth that the power of the eclipse will invite you to take a look at and of course integrate it into your life, especially your future. And it's like a symbolic divorce. A divorce from uncertainty, a divorce from a certain kind of lifestyle where basically your inner truth, this is not just like emotional energy or soul level spiritual energy, but also your mindset, your perceptions, the way you see the world, the way you see other people, basically how your mind processes reality. So what you're divorcing from is that very many times, especially the last 7 or even for some people 14 years of your life, reality, your relationships, even very practical like job relationships, colleagues, your position in society, your circle of friends, just didn't reflect back that which you truly were. And by this I mean everything, your mindset, your life philosophies, the way you see things. It was almost like reality was kind of broken. Very many times it felt like you are a total alien, like you're an outsider. No one understands you, no one gets you. No one can even go close, go near to perceiving you, seeing you, who and how you really were. And this isn't like in a fantastic way, as in to see like you're an ancient soul or stuff like that. This is basically on a human level, so nothing magical or fantastic about this. No one simply got who you are. No one saw your true intentions, which were always really, really good. And it's not like necessarily people were against you or you were rejected or anything like that. But it was quite the contrary. People used to give you a lot of advice which weren't really you. Like you need to change this, you need to adapt. You are not using your potential. You're much better than this. You can do so much better. You're not using your intellect because you're way too smart for this job, for that person to do this or that. So it wasn't actually something negative. It wasn't actually advice or whatever they reflected, the feedback basically you got. It wasn't bad intended. It just wasn't really aligned to who you were and your inner truth. Because let's just say you need to change and adapt and basically lower your standards in certain ways, increase your standards in other ways. But that was basically like social norms or coping skills that all of your friends or whoever surrounded you, socially speaking or professionally speaking, even your friends, well, all of that worked for them and who they were, but it was simply not for who you were deep inside, because all along you were actually knowing what you were doing, and they were absolutely right. You are extremely intelligent, so much so that whatever was available to you personally at that moment, may it be career-wise, socially, economically, professionally, could never have ever, no matter what you could have done, what you would have done, what compromises you would have made, reflected your true intelligence, because your mind is not just a really, really good, symbolically speaking, processor, so to speak, but it's quantic. It is basically totally out of this world. So nothing, absolutely nothing, available for you all of those years, the past, let's say 7 years or 14 years, no matter what you would have done, no matter whose advice you would have followed, nothing would have worked, nothing would have changed absolutely everything. And of course, you personally didn't have the answers either. And nor should you have, because it was a period of learning. It was a period to master your true capabilities, your intellectual power, which is not just something strictly down to earth. You're not just an intellectual or a smart person. Your mind is beyond earthly. So that is exactly why reality and everything in your life could not reflect your inner truth, even if you kind of knew your way, even if you instinctually or intuitively or through your very strong sense of logic and anticipation, you weren't exactly lost. You kind of knew this, that you were different and you're meant to do something which might not even exist in the world yet in that period, the past 7 or 14 years. And you try to basically stand up for yourself as much as you could. But there came a moment when you kind of started questioning yourself, and you had to take on the advices that you were given. So you actually tried your very best to adapt, to aim higher, to do this and that, to put your intellect to much greater use. You tried to have more social connections, to be, let's say, friendlier, or to explore like social circles where you could potentially connect to people who were more like you or had a much greater understanding of the world, and a worldview which is based on an intellectual lifestyle, study, rationality, and of course a certain kind of philosophy, aspirations, goals, etc. So basically, you tried your very, very best, regardless if it was from a professional perspective, from a personal perspective, as certain kinds of friends, or certain kind of friend circle, or if it was like a career choice, or basically this 7 of swords can also represent a relocation, going to a different country, going to a different culture where you thought you would fit in much more because the value systems were not that different. There weren't like the earth and the sky. So where I'm going with this is that you truly, truly tried to do things differently. You surrendered your own perceptions, your own inner truth, your own, basically inner guidance mechanism which told you specific things, maybe sometimes things which were totally out of the ordinary, out of the mundane. They were almost like sci-fi basically. So you said, well, let's just try to be normal. And you gave it your best shot. And the irony is that you were both successful, but at the same time, from a certain perspective, it was like the biggest mistake you could have ever done, because you felt, especially your mind, your soul, your creativity, the light of your intellect basically felt like it was not just in a prison, but it was playing a fool's game. It was like if you had to hide before, or you had to pretend before, if people didn't get who you were before, when after you tried your very, very best and took on advices, maybe advices from a mentor, a teacher, a parent, a best friend, or people in general, or maybe you read books, Or you might have read psychology, as in how to adapt, how to not feel like a total outsider. So maybe strictly physically, strictly, let's say socially, it might have been successful because yes, you adapted, and yes, the same, let's say, patterns that usually worked for other people worked for you as well. As in, let's say you had, let's say, success, professional advancement, you were praised, you became popular, yet the inner truth was more bitter, was more like a really sour contradiction because your soul was even more miserable than before. At least before, you were like an outsider, maybe a rebel, you felt like an alien, you felt excluded, yet it was due to your inner world, it was due to who you were inside. But now when you did everything by the book and it feels that much worse, when it made you truly unhappy and maybe you were depressed, maybe it led you to anxiety, maybe it led you to a certain kind of disgust and almost like self-loathing because you were only a mask. You were never ever authentic. You might have got to the point where you might have not even known anymore who you are. Who is real? Which side of you is real? Can you trust your mind? Can you trust your emotions? And at the same time, all of this in this story, you might have also had a partner, like a romantic relationship, for some people like a marriage, for others like a soulmate kind of best friend, who made this even worse, but out of sheer good intention, because you tried to be normal, so to speak. You just couldn't believe that you were not compatible, because maybe that partner or best friend or soulmate was like a really good example. There was nothing wrong with them, so to speak, morally, or they weren't like a dishonest person, neither a very toxic person at first. But, it just escalated. Maybe you had beautiful moments. Maybe you had like peaceful moments together. Maybe you even had successes together. But because you were so very incompatible, it just couldn't work out. And it was like living torture for you, because you might have always blamed yourself that you cannot love as much or as intensely as you were loved. And that was also a massive illusion, because only a person who is truly compatible with you can love you. A person who just has the mask, or someone who conditions you to be in a certain way and even helps you symbolically, supports it, feeds it, well, that person doesn't really love you. It just loves the image in their own mind of you. And the more this person, whoever it was, supported you, the worse it became, because if they, for example, if they supported you materially, they turned you into a vegetable, like almost cutting off your creativity. If they supported you professionally, work-wise, they kind of pushed you deeper, or better said, made sure that you entangle yourself in the spider's web in a very dangerous way, especially psychologically. They were totally blind to who you were, except your shadow, that is, because this is the 7 of Wands. When it was too much, your shadow lashed out, and it was a pretty fearsome sight, so to speak, because maybe your shadow tried to protect you so very much that certain like paranormal things started happening, maybe not for everyone. For example, that partner or that best friend, that person, maybe it was just a housemate, things started to happen, illnesses, accidents, objects moving, nightmares. Not to you personally, but to everyone who surrounded you. And what does all of this have to do with the eclipse? Well, it's pretty simple. One of the big soul level truths that will just simply shoot out from you, burst like a volcano, that you can't fault yourself, you can't blame yourself for absolutely anything, regardless of what you would have done differently. Basically, the world itself, society, the times were not ready for someone like you, and you're not the only one like that. And it is only now when you can see it, how many other powerful, brilliant, creative minds were suppressed and basically buried. But if you wouldn't have went forward with these experiences, on one hand, you would not have learned so very many things, so very many real life skills. So choosing to be normal, let's say, to go to like a university, do certain studies, or be part of a company job, or whatever that is, even if it wasn't who you were, still had a massive purpose, because it taught you like very, very practical, useful skills, and it helped you develop your mind in a very practical way, so you needed that anyway. And basically living a lie was also extremely important, because how can you know what your truth is if you don't live the opposite? You are not the kind of person who can be satisfied just by philosophies. You need to live it, and you actually lived it. Now that kind of life and that past might have already been closed. May it be a divorce, the relationship ended, you detached yourself from job, career, friends, everything and everyone involved in that old lifestyle, which isn't that actually that very old, because maybe all of this very powerful cut off, so to speak, started in 2017, and the door was closed forever in 2020. And even though you might know all of this, you might know who you are right now, you might have never in your life felt this close to yourself. You might have never felt so authentic, so very real, and basically you're actually able to use the potential of your mind and your intellect, and at the same time, this world crisis might have been the most powerful confirmation for you that old lifestyle and just playing by the rules, doing what other people do, was truly in vain. It was more like, let's pretend that we are living something and doing something where only the recognition of others and money makes it real. Apart from that, it's just an illusion. So even though the world suffered a great deal, you personally, at least on a soul level, well, it was like a confirmation of everything, and it really, really made you trust yourself, trust your senses, trust your own logic. And basically, this is where divorce from the world and the ways of the world forever. There is absolutely no way of going back to even immerse yourself into that which other people do, like a normal career path, a typical way of living, just to have friends for their recognition. All of that is no going back ever. Yet there is still something missing. The picture, the big picture, the puzzle isn't 100% complete yet. Because even though now you are so sure of yourself, you know who you are, and you are so very grateful for having that opportunity not to live in any kind of doubts and confusion anymore, to be able to truly trust your perceptions, your senses, your logic, your way of interpreting reality and even foreseeing stuff. Yet you're still kind of owed karmically, so to speak, a new beginning. And this isn't like, how should I say, a new beginning as in a huge present. When you unwrap it, everything is there, because you already have your new beginning. You kind of have a good idea of what you want to do next, and what you want to do next is more like how you want to live, what you want to do with your life, and this might have absolutely nothing to do with any career or profession. It might have a lot to do with creativity. It might have a lot to do perhaps with arts, perhaps with sharing your experiences, maybe teaching, or maybe just being with yourself in peace and harmony and living life. And the 6 of coins might represent also nature. You might want to be in nature for the rest of your life, connected to nature, maybe a natural way of living, returning to a natural lifestyle like farming or growing plants or studying nature or working with nature spiritually or whatever that is. But you still need a final piece of that puzzle. And this is what the eclipse is going to be creating in your life. This can represent an opportunity. This can also represent a community or a group of people. This can also represent like a lover, but it's not the way it used to be. This is where, because the lovers is reversed, you're still divorcing from a certain kind of lifestyle. So it's not like marriage, it's not like a classic relationship. It is merely 2 really, really big souls, 2 amazing minds, 2 brilliant people, as in you and someone else, accompanying each other through this big adventure called life, and each and everyone doing their own thing, living their own destinies, which are kind of solitary in the sense that no one wants to be connected to society, or I don't know what kind of no one wants to be bound by social rules and norms and stuff like that. So everyone just wants to live their own story. So it is exactly attachments and misaligned beliefs and unrealistic expectations of what a relationship has to mean, which is going to be missing from this picture, and that is the blessing. But it's also a certain kind of compromise, because everyone will have to kind of carry the weight of their spiritual cross, of what they came here to do and live. And even though the experience can be shared, the cross itself cannot. But perhaps this is the biggest blessing, because this is union but also total freedom. And it also has a material element to it, as in something that you still need in order to live your truth, to live that lifestyle that you desire. It is basically something karma still owes you, and that special something, regardless of what it is, well, that will basically crystallize, ground your truth and stability for a very, very long time. This doesn't mean an easy life or, total comfort and security handed down to you on a silver tray. But it means that you will be able to always and always stand up for yourself, choose yourself, believe in yourself, and ultimately live in the truth that This journey in this life is about you, your perceptions, your story, and that must not really be surrendered to anyone or anything else. It is your lesson. It is your basically education, your soul's unique journey. And when a lot of people or most people in this lifetime, in this world, in this existence don't resonate with it, well, that is for a very specific reason, because they are not meant to be part of your story on a deep soul level. That doesn't mean to be the enemy of the world or to counter anyone else's opinion, ideas, philosophies, lifestyle. Not at all. You can help them. You'll always be a good neighbor, a good acquaintance, a friendly person, someone who will listen, someone who will treat people with respect. But that means in a detached way. And most importantly, never ever to take advice from people who don't truly see and get who you are. So the big karmic revelation of this eclipse is that you were always right, and basically the world was always wrong. At least for you personally. And this is the truth that you have to embrace and embody and basically accept as a massive blessing, the Six of Coins. And if you need anything more in order to actually be able to live it intensely, well, whatever is missing, that is what the universe is gonna either guide you towards or give you around the time of this eclipse. And the Six of Coins, it can be anything. It can be something material, a source of income, a very unique business plan, or like becoming a freelance artist, or anything which symbolizes the Six of Coins, as in Moon and Taurus. You giving value through your soul's expression unto the lives of others. This may be anything artistic, music, handcrafts, agriculture, working with plants, working with animals, working in a charity, charitable activities. And for some, it can even be a new partner who is you, but on a higher level. As in someone like you, but who already done all of this, who is already living their destiny, so to speak. So they have this experience, know-how, and a much greater sense of self-confidence and security, which you are developing, strengthening as we speak. And naturally, this other truth is the Lover's reverse, that ex-partner or ex-whatever, colleague, boss, best mate, housemate, soulmate, or whatever this was, disappears from your heart forever. Not in the sense that you won't see it as a valuable experience, but the guilt and the cross falls off, because you will know you done nothing wrong and it was simply incompatibility. Well, thank you so much for listening, Group 1. Wish you a magical and blessed eclipse. Hello everyone who has chosen the second pile. Your cards are the Chariot, the Empress, the Lovers reversed, and the Devil. Now, all of these cards are major arcana, so this is really powerful. This is really strong. This is really significant. This is like a powerful manifestation of something. But of course, before we take a look at what that can potentially be, well, we also have to take in consideration why these are exclusively major arcana. Now, major arcana are always, besides their normal symbolism, are also karmic cards. Each and every one depicts one cycle, one big karmic lesson in life. So whoever you might be, well, you're an extremely experienced person, both spiritually, both as a human being, in every way possible, and that implicitly means that you had a very hard life, and the lessons in life were very, very tough for you. Basically it means that you've not only had a very not easy childhood, but you might have had certain responsibilities, certain burdens, certain things which most people don't really, experience 24/7 each and every day of their lives, every year from birth. So without a shadow of a doubt, you're an ancient soul, but also like a strong warrior soul, because not every even soul can take on such an emotionally and also philosophically, so to speak, intense life, because it would simply drive most people insane, because all of these major arcana also represent closures, also represent failures, also represent the bitter moments of life. It represents moments of ruin, and then you having to pick up yourself from the shattered pieces, being reborn from the ashes, so to speak, and yet still conserving the very core of your essence in a very down-to-earth and human way. So basically it means going through all of these very intense karmic lessons, but not forgetting for a second who you are. So this chariot can represent that you moved a lot of times in your life. You moved, let's say, houses or even cultures. You might have visited other countries. You might have been involved in many projects or goals or personal ambitions. But when I say personal ambitions, these were not like selfish, and these were not really for you, because if you would have been triumphant, that triumph would have been shared, with someone very special. For example, your family or disadvantaged people, or this is also very strong humanitarian energy. You really wanted to change the world in many different ways several times in your life. And this represents an idealistic energy where each and every time your ideals were shattered, but not as a punishment, but rather to align you with what is possible and what would be excessive help. And at the same time, when someone really lives for an ideal, they burn out and end up in a bad way. And basically, the universe sometimes fought with you, against you, not allowing you to immerse yourself into your ideal, to save your life, to save your integrity, to save your inner fire from extinguishing. So at times you might have misunderstood the divine intention as working against you, and it took you some years, it took you a lot of inner work, a soul searching, even study of psychology and spirituality, for you to understand that this was actually protection. Because many times in life, success is the road to demise, especially when someone is so pure-hearted, so true, so very willful in the good way. And I also see that you had all of these big plans, big ideals, big goals, even as a child, even as a teenager. All of those big dreams of changing the world, of doing something great for a community, even if it's just your family, for others, or even as an artist inspiring so many people. But what you didn't know is that would take such a heavy toll, especially in our day and age, that it would have led you to either insanity or your physical health would decline simply. Yet you needed to be allowed to experience all of your big goals, big ideals, partially, because it was also part of your life lesson, your mission. This is how you were shown basically the true face of the world, but at the same time all the positive things, how skilled you are, how talented you are, and the massive difference between you and those people who might have been successful but in an easy way, as in those who were very lucky in life, who just snapped their fingers and they got this triumph, they got success or good fortune or money or wealth or whatever this is. But at the same time, the other part of the lesson, Fortuna gives, as in goddess of fortune, but she also takes at the blink of an eye. So you also saw certain successful people, which once you might have admired, crumble and be destroyed as easily as they got their opportunity. With such ease and almost cruelty, it was taken away from them. And at the same time, this chariot represents that one of the biggest lessons that you learn is that sheer luck, like sheer good fortune, when Fortuna smiles upon you, that is not a blessing, but that is almost like a guarantee that the opposite will also happen to you. But deep gratitude and basically true spiritual work is the way how to attract good things and success in your life. But the cost of that is patience, mastery, effort, and basically staying true and staying pure. Even when your ideals shatter, you still have to stay true to your purpose. And when the universe, when the divine says that you have to abandon this and you have to surrender, you have to start something new, you somehow have to maybe not comply, but see the wisdom in it and embrace it. So it also taught you that sheer ambition, sheer fixation and obsession to getting what you want is also not the right path, because at the same time it will lead to a massive burnout. And at that moment when you sacrifice so much, let's say, inner fire, the fixation, the sheer ambition to get where you want to get, and you have it, you work for it, of course, either symbolically through your willpower or physically. And the moment when you get it and it no longer fills the hole, it doesn't really make you happy anymore because you consume too much, well, that is also a bitter end. So you had all of these powerful karmic lessons where you were allowed and actually supported on your journeys, on your paths, on your personal projects, but never allowed to achieve that big moment of glory. But by now, the chariot is upright, the empress is upright. Not only have you processed this, but you really learn to trust. You learn to surrender when it's needed. You also learn to be ambitious and invest your energy when needed. You also learn how to steer your chariot, as in ambitions, goals, your path, direction in life, in a safe way, as in not to rush, to rest when needed, to go backwards even when fate or the situation requires that, and at the same time, when there is something brewing, stirring, and an opportunity comes, to jump and leap towards it and take that risk, either spiritually. What the risk is spiritually is maybe the opportunity is an illusion and you jump for it, and sometimes materially, in the sense that you are gonna invest a lot of effort, even time of your precious life, into something with no guarantees. But you learned the balance, you learned the wisdom, you learned everything that you needed quite humanly, physically as well, in order to be a valid charioteer, a successful, wise, and compassionate charioteer. And this empress also represents a lot of inner work, a lot of psychology or parapsychology, where you truly had to heal your sense of self-worth. You truly had to upgrade your value system. And basically, you had to see yourself through the eyes of the divine, through the eyes of the universe, of the creator, because you reach the conclusion that the closest thing to objective truth is within the divine and not in anything we can perceive with our minds, sometimes not even with the heart, a human heart, but only through the soul. So that truly healed you, that truly kind of turned you into the Empress, regardless of your gender. The Empress is value. The Empress is alchemical gold. The Empress is Venus manifested. Venus manifested basically means that it is your creator who finds you very, very beautiful and takes great pride and joy in its creation. But what does all of this have to do with this lunar eclipse? Well, this is already what you have. This is an energy within you. This is a state of being. This is like a spiritual and also psychological enlightenment. And when I say enlightenment, let's not go to the extremes, as in not an ascended master or whatever, but simply it is your personal enlightenment. You know, you see, you trust, you are whole within you. But this is where the Lovers reversed is going to be the main theme of this eclipse for you. And this doesn't necessarily mean anything bad or negative. It means return to yourself, return to you. A Lover's reverse can represent someone or something, a situation in your life which prevents you from being able to live in like total harmony with yourself, of being able to not just simply have the chariot and the empress, but also to live it, as in having your cake and being able to eat it. And also, out of all of the cards, it is the Lovers which depict what prevents you. So it has to be something which doesn't really depend on you, neither psychologically, neither spiritually. It is not something you can just fix or conjure up on the inside. That is exactly why the chariot and the empress are foreshadowing this Lovers reversed, because you have done that, you have that, you achieved that, you have clarity, you know what you need to do, you know who you are. And this chariot can also represent that you already are doing something very important which reflects your self-worth, as in a project, a job, some purpose or goal or a dream that you are actually living, creating, working on, and your chariot is going forward. So the potential of success is huge and it is authentic and the universe supports it. So basically you have everything that you need, but this Lovers reverse situation doesn't allow you to be able to get fully immersed into it, because that would mean true manifestation. So this Lovers reverse can represent, for example, you are caring for a person and it is out of love. It is not just obligation. You want to do it. It is basically part of your soul's greatest desire for this person to be more than okay. This can be like a child, it can be a parent, it can be someone who you hold as family, someone very dear to you. Maybe that person is ill, maybe that person is very lost in life. Maybe something bad happened to that person and they're recovering. And you cannot let it go. You cannot basically abandon this person. So you might be in a checkmate situation. You're so blessed, you have everything that you need, yet the situation cannot be solved by you or anything that you could possibly do. It can also be the lover's reverse, naturally a partner. And if this is the case, if you are in an established bond, well, either your partner is not ready or is not on the same wavelength with you, or maybe the passion, the love, the commitment, the solidarity is no longer there, and you might not really know what to do. Should you separate? Should you try again? Should you divorce? Or maybe for some people, is your partner actually like faithful to you? Now for others still, the lover's reversed actually represents that, okay, you embody this Empress Venus energy, yet you need someone to share it with. You want to give, you want to express. So if you're single, it means that you need a partner, but not any partner, but someone who truly can understand on a deep soul and spiritual level, on one hand, everything that you went through in life, and on the other hand, they have to be at least purpose-wise and life goal-wise, the Chariot, just like you. Maybe different personality, different temperament, different way of doing things, but the life purpose and the intention of what you exist for basically has to be the same, because otherwise the Empress would be lost. It would be wasted, better alone. And maybe if this is the case that you're single, you might live in a certain kind of contradiction, because you're absolutely fine single, you love yourself, you love your life, you love your path and your journey, but maybe something inside of you is telling you that you're not really meant to be single. So what do you do with these contradictory feelings? A sense of self-love and you don't need anyone else in your life, but at the same time, the sense that you do need someone in your life, someone very, very special. And let's just look at the resolution. Well, it is the Devil. And there is a strong connection between the Lover's card and the Devil card in Tarot, both bearing the numerological symbolism of 6, and both depicting a totally different side of partnerships, where the Lovers is, the Gemini adolescent kind of love, where you immediately perceive and see your partner as just an other self. That's why you're so in love. It is idealistic, pure romantic, yet immature, so to speak. And the Devil is the opposite. It is strings attached, but commitment, loyalty, groundedness, and of course all of the other earthly expressions of love. But at the same time, the Devil always represents manifestation, because it's the sign of Capricorn. So it's down on earth, earthly, real, material. So this kind of means a compromise which will save, or better said, complete your situation. For example, if that Lover's reverse meant that you're bound by a situation, you're caring for someone that you love deeply, your child or a parent or someone very important in your life. Maybe you can find a way to help them and at the same time please your own journey and your own freedom as well. Or maybe it is basically the karma, it is basically the manifestation of the lunar eclipse which solves their situation, you being able to detach and serve the self, the devil, one of the expressions of the devil. But it kind of requires a compromise, because that person will also have to let you go. Or it can also mean that it is going to be revealed to you that the attachment is a little bit unhealthy and you need to loosen the harness in both directions. Now, if it's a committed relationship, this can mean two things. Either the truth is going to be revealed, and whatever that truth is, well, it will definitely set you free. If it's like an infidelity, well, there it is, no doubt. You will know exactly what to do, and you will be able to embody your self-worth that much stronger and say bye-bye. Or if it's another truth that maybe you are no longer the same people who you were, you can still make it work, because marriage or a partnership is about commitment and alliance after all. You don't have to suffocate each other. You can just be better friends and, let's say, co-workers in life. And when that relationship serves both of your life purposes, well, the differences will no longer be enough to tear you apart, especially if those differences are ideals and, let's say, exaggerated expectations and desires, as in for a relationship to stay as pure as it always been. And if you're single and looking, you might find that special person, but it's the devil, so it's not gonna be like the prince coming on a white horse, because it's about surrendering something, maybe surrendering your liberty, surrendering your freedom, or making room in that chariot of yours for another person. So it's not that very gentle for an ego who just healed itself, as in who just embodied its true sense of self-worth, because that partner might have wounds, they might have a past which they had to heal themselves, and you also have to accept that. Or at the same time, it can mean something like incredibly positive, where the devil is like a person so strong or so wealthy or so whatever that it will little bit eclipse your Venus, because it might be you, but a much more stronger version of you. But of course, this is the true attraction, because that person might represent the alpha who wants to protect and care for the less strong. And you might have thought the same thing about yourself, that you are actually the kind of alpha, and now surprise, surprise, you're not. But if it has nothing to do with love, if it just has to do with the chariot of yours, your purpose, and your true worth, you are on the right path, you have so much to give to the world, for example, like an artist, etc. And this lover's reverse just means the opportunity hasn't come yet, as in to make it truly big, truly significant, as in to integrate it fully into your life, into your new reality. Well, then this devil comes, as in a very significant opportunity, but with compromises needed, as in not based on your most pure ideals, but rather what is possible here down on earth. So take it or leave it, but chances are you're gonna take it, because the advantages are gonna be extremely huge. But either way, whatever this devil might represent, well, it is a very powerful manifestation of something that you truly need to get your chariot leaping into whatever you're trying to accomplish, but in a very intense way. So it means not just slowly but surely, navigating towards accomplishment or success, but a big leap there. But that leap will also take you into uncharted, mysterious territories where your pure ideals are not gonna be valid anymore. So basically it shatters and it breaks certain ideals, but the utility, the practicalness, the usefulness of what you're gonna get is gonna be much, much greater. So thank you so much for listening, and I wish you all a blessed and truly magical eclipse. Hello everyone who has chosen the third pile. Your cards are the 9 of Wands reversed, the Wheel of Fortune, 8 of Wands, and the Fool reversed. Now this is a tricky situation because the universe does not reveal what the eclipse is gonna create in your life like a karmic completion, because it's both surprising and shocking, but not in a bad way. So I can only kind of guide you, I can only read the energy for you, but it is you guys who have to adapt it into your own situation, because for some reason the universe really, really wants to keep this a surprise for you. Because we already can tell by the Fool reversed that it is a turnaround, an unexpected, maybe shocking turnaround of your situation. Now this 9 of Wands reversed speaks about a lot of things. It speaks about responsibilities, duties, hardships, broken will, broken desire, broken dreams, a lot of effort that you guys might have had to invest in survival, into just making ends meet. And maybe 2019 may have been a very tough year for you guys. Maybe you invested a lot of effort and a lot of soul energy into something that you might have thought will lead you to success, to your truth, to accomplishment, through fixing a situation, maybe healing yourselves. And it was like, not that it was a failure, but it didn't turn out the way you expected it to. Maybe the result was more symbolic and not so much concrete, not so much physically helpful. And this was a little bit like bittersweet. And at the same time, this 9 of Wands reversed also depicts your past, all of your life basically. It means a lot of effort, study. It means like work. It means like experience, gaining experience, sacrificing, investing time and effort into many things to make you grow, to make you evolve. Maybe studies, maybe university, maybe trying out different careers, but where you truly try to give your passion into it. At the same time, it also speaks about spirituality, your faith, your worldview, your life philosophies. You might have had cycles in your life where you might have been aligned to different things. As in, you were always spiritual, you were always passionate about spirituality, and you always try to combine rationality, a very rational, philosophical approach in order to understand with all parts of your being what the world is, what the divine is, the cycles that are playing out, what is the meaning of the existence, what is reality made out of, how much do our perceptions, our faith, and our beliefs matter in life, as in, even from a spiritual perspective, what is true only on the inside, but what is the general truth. So you might have been into a lot of philosophy, you might have studied ancient cultures, ancient philosophies, the perceptions of different religious paths. You might have read a lot of very relevant authors in the philosophical world. You might have even studied metaphysics, parapsychology, even astrology for some people, in order to get answers of where your soul comes from, your soul mission, what's the meaning of this existence, because you might be someone who always just knew and remembered previous existences, and you just had knowledge, like practical knowledge, which you shouldn't have had, and you just don't know where it came from, how it just entered your mind. But for example, when you were young and you were studying at school, certain things you should have, came across for the first time in your life, you already knew. Like, let's say about planets or solar system, or that our bodies are composed of cells and tissues, electricity, or how certain historic events played out. So basically, this Nine of Wands represents a very strong soul energy, where yes, you were born with a lot of knowledge written deep inside your genes. It is basically part of who you are, but at the same time you also worked a lot, studied, researched, experimented, philosophized, and you wanted to make this a part of your life. It is either the metaphysical or parapsychology, the supernatural, or basically learning about ancient civilizations or other beings, other forms of consciousness. Like all of this, you knew that it just has to be part of your life. It even has to be part of your everyday routine. But it can also have to do with healing, learning how to heal with energy or plants, or how to influence reality through our thoughts, our will, our emotions, basically manifesting, seeing what the invisible construct of reality is, how it works. So it's a lot of study, a lot of research, and of course, naturally, a lot of contradiction. But of course, because your soul was so very fixated on all of this, well, it doesn't matter what you did in, let's say, your everyday life, what job or career or social position or whatever you may have had. Your soul was never present there, so that just came and went. It just was like a leaf in the lake where the wind just washed it where it wanted to. And don't get me wrong, you tried your very hardest to focus there, to concentrate, to live that when things were getting intense, either in a good or bad way. But it just, wasn't for you. So basically, the wisdom in everything was to make what you're truly passionate about, what you truly love, what you truly live and experience each and every day of your life, and what interests you, what is you, to be part of your life for good, as in that should be even your career and your source of income. But the thing is, you are someone who desires authenticity in almost an obsessive way. So you kind of need to excel. You need to be beyond what your average metaphysical person or healer or philosopher or whatever way of expression you found, especially in the year 2019, you want it to be fully authentic. Average wouldn't do. So you really gave it your everything, not necessarily that work or project or whatever you started in 2019, but living like this, living in your truth, doing that which is truly you. And it really doesn't matter what way of expression it is, if it's like healing, coaching, psychology, parapsychology, astrology, metaphysics, channeling, or working with plants or nature or whatever. Actually, you're so very adaptable, you're so very flexible, and you have experience, at least intellectually, in so many domains that you can make a lot of things work for you. That's not really a problem. The problem is that others, maybe the industry itself, became so superficial, so ridiculously simplified, and so not based on expression of someone's power, that it kind of burned you out. It kind of made that Nine of Wands reverse. So that means fatigue, but a soul level fatigue. Your mind is tired, your soul is tired, your willpower is gone. You might feel a little bit so very lost, and yet found at the same time, because you do feel the universe at work in your life in a way you never felt it before. It's like it's omnipresent everywhere. Signs, manifestations, and even your personal, you can do amazing things. You can do things which, blow anyone's mind. Yet, how can all of this, give you the life that you can actually live, as in to integrate this? And this is where the eclipse comes into play, the wheel of fortune. Luck, fate, destiny turning, a fated event, a prophecy being fulfilled. Since you work with something to do with the metaphysical or psychology or dreams or whatever that is, you can communicate with the universe. So something was promised to you, something was revealed to you, and it is something that you trusted. Maybe that's why you did something very soliciting, very effort-taking in 2019, which you might have perceived as either not valid guidance, or maybe it wasn't materially as big as you thought it was going to be. But anyway, the wheel is turning very soon at the time of the eclipse, and something is definitely coming in your life to fulfill that prophecy, to fulfill that promise. It is almost like the divine showing itself and its true power to you personally in a way that will transform your life, change your life. I'm not exactly sure what happens, but this Eight of Wands can suggest that either you receive some communication, offer, something from abroad or from an international area, multicultural area, if that makes sense. An invitation abroad, for example, an invitation to be part of a project, for example, but a project which is big and sustained by other people, a lot of influential people. It can also be a manifestation which just blows your mind, which might not have anything to do with work or money or opportunities in a human way. You might see something, you might experience something totally out of this world. Something might be shown to you, communicated by divine sources. It might be something totally external, as in something that happens in the world, something that the eclipse produces in the world, like a big event, and that somehow does something for you personally, but I'm not sure how it can correlate. It can also be like contact with, not sure how to describe this, other beings or non-earthly intelligence or something like that, but what is communicated to you is like practical. It is like do this, that, and that, and if you do it, it will get you somewhere with whatever you need in your life. It can also represent, especially with this Wheel of Fortune, a karmic boom, like a big manifestation, which kind of defeats everything that you think and you're working on right now, but for the better. As in, why work? Why build a career on your talents and skills when you can just live your life freely without having to even have a career? Just live it, experience it, work with it. Don't work with your magic, be your magic, and nothing can stop you or condition you. Getting your freedom in a way which is unimaginable to you. And this is why the Fool is reversed. It is definitely a new beginning, but one which you don't see coming. One which is bigger than you could possibly imagine, and one which goes way beyond on what you're working right now, especially in a professional or lucrative or money-making way. It's almost like the universe telling you, well, okay, you've done all of this and I really appreciate it, but my actual intent is for you to be free and live it and not to work. Maybe to travel, maybe to see different places. As in to do something, but where your work or whatever you're trying to do no longer serves as in society or no longer has a very down-to-earth expression, but rather you work for the divine, with the divine mystery. So that means that your earthly human life has to be miraculously safe and secure, giving you the freedom to do whatever it is that you need to do. And on the other hand, it is also your own personal truth, that which you were seeking for a lot of years, both the Wheel of Fortune and also the Fool. Well, that is definitely going to be revealed to you, and it will shock you. It will basically amaze you, astound you, but in the good sense. It will almost like when someone suffers cardiac arrest, but symbolically speaking, of course, as in no longer feeling the passion of life and everything, the Nine of Wands reversed, and then the universe shocking you back to life. But this also suggests that you might have the ability to decipher much more than I am possible to what all of this means for you personally, so just connect to the divine and find out more. So thank you so much for listening. Wish everyone an amazing and, by the sounds of this, shocking eclipse. Hello everyone who has chosen the fourth pile. Your cards are the Queen of Coins, the Three of Cups, the Four of Coins, and the Wheel of Fortune as a conclusion. Now this Queen of Coins opens the reading and it represents a lot of work, a lot of investment of your creational energies into a kind of work which doesn't just serve your own material situation and your own well-being and livelihood, but also those of others. Like for example, the Queen of Coins can represent when someone provides for themselves and their families. It can also represent that the type of work that they do is like a healing, nurturing kind of work. So it is actually in the benefit of others. Like for example, a nurse, a doctor, a healer, an artist even, the inspiration that they provide others with. It can also represent if you're like a single parent and you really have to make sure that your child or children have absolutely everything that they need. Or it can also represent that you are a parent, or you have certain kind of very down to earth responsibilities and duties, but at the same time you also have like an amazing talent, something which like was with you all your life. Either you can create something, do something. For example, maybe you're an artist at soul, and you can also do a lot of things with your artistic talents, but you have to split your time and your energy between your earthly responsibilities and duties and your art. So basically, maybe your art is not your source of income, or even if it is, you might have to also care for someone or do something, so you might not have all the time in the world. Or maybe it's something totally else. Maybe there is something that you do for your friends, for your family, for people who are dear to you, yet that is not your livelihood. Now, of course, this Queen of Coins also represents your past. Now, if this represents your career or your work, your livelihood, well, it means that you have invested a lot of energy into it. And it's not that you weren't good at what you were doing, neither that it didn't work, but maybe the rewards didn't really reflect your true worth. This not might be something like negative, because it could be purely out of choice. You couldn't have handled a bigger position, for example, because you had family or you had something else to do in your spare time. Or it can also represent your role if you were a parent, or if you cared for someone, or if your work was of a nurturing, self-sacrificial nature for the good of others, like a doctor, nurse, healer, counselor, therapist, etc. Well, maybe you were a slave in a symbolic sense, and not really in a bitter way, but still you were so very caught up in it, you just couldn't stop helping others, you couldn't take a break, you just kept on building, doing, serving, helping, and you might not have had the time to explore a different side of yourself. So this is like two different expressions of someone's earthly creativity coexisting, but always having to choose that which offers you more money, stability, or greater psychological satisfaction, or basically the spirit of responsibility and duty, this Queen of Coins. And the other one, well, it wasn't like neglected, but it just couldn't truly manifest in the full glory, in its like true potential. So this is where this eclipse comes into play. And for you guys, well, it is definitely like a karmic boost, like a good karma finally showering upon your life. Because this Three of Cups represents a celebration, but as in you will finally see just how well you have done in life. You will finally see how valuable and appreciated your work was, not just by other people, but also the universe and the divine. So all those years when you embodied this Queen of Coins energy, regardless of your gender, you still nurtured someone, or provided for someone, sacrificed for someone. So that has to lead to something really, really good in life. And when, times cannot enable for people to give back what they received from you, well, then the universe comes into play and karmically gives you back everything that you deserve. And the Three of Cups also represent that what you have done may be not just your career or work, but perhaps outside of your work. You really made a difference in the lives of certain people. May they be friends or family, or not just if it's children, it's not just your children, but indirectly other children as well. So you made a lot of people either happy, or you kind of made their days on a lot of occasions, many times in life, or sometimes you were actually that saving grace, either psychologically as a friend and someone who cares, as someone who nurtures, as someone who is that rock that support the Queen of Coins, basically, both materially sometimes, or through your work, through your art, through your talent, through your self-expression, and all of that is really wonderful. But for you it wasn't easy. It was really hard, because you kind of had to shut up with your own problems, how tired you were, how really difficult it is for you, and that you don't have time for yourself, for your own needs, and just do what had to be done. So either way, it is a karmic reward, which can play out in a number of different ways. Like, for example, if you have this artistic talent, if you are already doing something artistic for a living, then it means recognition, the Four of Coins. It is your true worth shining brightly as possible and getting you material wealth as well. But if it is something to do with your job, for example, especially if you are serving others, then it might be a material reward, some kind of recognition which benefits you materially. It can also be like advancement, a very significant advancement, or from a worker or someone who does a certain kind of job or plays a role, they become a mentor, a teacher, someone who is totally beyond that which they were doing until this moment. If you are a parent and this Queen of Coins represents your position as a parent, then maybe it is a child or someone who you sacrificed for, who is gonna shower your life with a source of great happiness. Something wonderful happens. It can also be someone who you sacrificed for, someone who you helped in the past, in maybe the more distant past. This Three of Cups, they get into a much better position, and they give you back much more than you gave to them, because you were like a saving grace in their lives and they never forgot. So it's like an unexpected blessing, and what you get back is with great abundance. But of course, this Four of Coins doesn't make it as simple as this, because it's also the card of attachment. It's also the card of fixation. So basically, it doesn't matter what kind of karmic reward it is. Are you able to accept it? Or if it requires you to abandon the old, the usual, are you truly able to do that step? For example, if it's an advancement at your job, are you able to take on that new position, new responsibilities, and basically confront a certain psychological pattern, the need to be needed, because that is also part of why you embody that Queen of Coins energy. If you're, for example, like a healer or you work with people, can you truly abandon that energy where they need you, they want you, they have to have your care, for example? Or if you're a parent and something wonderful happens to your child, but they need to, let's say, move further away from you, are you gonna be okay with that? Or let's say your child gets married, or this is the way the Three of Cups manifests, as in a celebration in the family where another person is added. Are you able to release the attachment? Or let's say if you're an artist, are you able to abandon that old value system where you might have thought or seen yourself as more amateur than someone highly valuable? So will you be able to charge that kind of new value, if you know what I mean? Like, for example, instead of that 20 euros, are you able to charge the 20,000 euros? It's not as easy as it sounds, because this will take a lot of psychological power and courage to do something much bigger than you were used to. But ultimately, this Wheel of Fortune means expansion, advancement, good fortune, and karmic reward. But it will take you out and away from all of this energy, both the Queen of Coins, the need to be needed, the nurturer, the provider, the protector, and also from your basic routines. So it might be a massive life upgrade, which comes in a moment when maybe you're not ready. So it will need like an inner leap of faith, an inner courage to embrace and accept this new blessing, this Wheel of Fortune, the expansion, and basically the karmic discharge. Because on one hand, it will feel like retirement, the Queen of Coins retires, and on the other hand, it will also represent a new kind of responsibility, the Four of Coins, where you need to actually, as in, project that new worth, the new self-worth, the new honor and glory that the universe bestows on you. Because if you will keep the same mindset, well, the blessing will only last for a very short period. And this is a lunar eclipse. This is meant to last for a long time. So are you truly ready? And this is where how ready you are is what the eclipse will kind of force you to answer, because you will be the instrument of measure of how big or small the manifestation, the karmic blessing, is gonna feel like in your life. Because if you cannot abandon being the Queen of Coins, the need to be needed, then basically you will turn your blessing into something rather symbolic. It will delight you, the celebration will be there, the glory, the honor, the faith, the gratitude will be there. But physically speaking, maybe you'll let this opportunity go, refuse it. Yet if you truly embody that worth and take a look at all of the energy, karmic energy, your sacrifices, basically constructed in your life, and accept it, which means also honoring your own sacrifices, then it can turn as big as the universe allows. So if you're an artist, well, there might be a little bit of compromise attached to this as well. Because basically you will have to demand what's yours. You will have to raise your standards maybe sky high. Maybe there's no more charity work, symbolically speaking. And maybe you have to make certain compromises that are basically part of the industry. So it might seem as a huge blessing, but it's not as easy, it's not as simple as that. And it is this element of the eclipse which might shatter certain old beliefs, even if those are very honest and modest. So basically we'll have to make sure that it won't take away your humbleness as a soul, but it has to take away the expression of the humbleness as a professional. So thank you so much for listening. Wish everyone a blessed and magical eclipse. Hello everyone who has chosen the fifth pile. For you, your cards are the Three of Wands reversed, the Five of Cups, the Two of Swords reversed, and the Moon reversed. Now this is an extremely deep and heavy psychological energy. For some reason, the universe has chosen the time of this eclipse to reveal to you something really, really important about your own karma and about your own specific and unique journey in this life, because the Three of Wands reversed and the Five of Cups, well, it's a really heavy, it's a really painful, traumatic, and quite bitter energy which might source from childhood. Now the Three of Wands reversed, it means that your perceptions, your outlook on life, basically your worldview, but when you were a child, so that's not the same thing as an adult. A child is always innocent, idealistic. It is basically like the magic of childhood, if you know what I mean. And that was narrowed down. That was basically almost like taken away from you, either by something which happened in your family. Maybe a parent abandoned you, someone walked out, a divorce, or maybe it was a really tough life, tough society, tough social position, where you just couldn't enjoy the innocence, the purity, the beauty, the playfulness of a childhood. You couldn't act, you couldn't live, you couldn't feel like other children. It was almost like this Five of Cups, the most beautiful, the most sacred, the most innocent part of your childhood was somehow either blocked from you, taken away from you, or it was you who had to basically sacrifice it. And this could mean so very many things. For example, this Five of Cups can represent alcohol problems. Maybe if it wasn't your parents strictly, maybe it was your climate, your neighborhood, your society itself, where you saw a lot of heavy, hard things. Maybe it was school, where you might have been, like the outsider, bullied, made fun of. They took away your basically individuality, your sense of independence, your will. They broke your will, so to speak. Or it can be a bad education system, even a not so, how should I say, caring, emotionally caring upbringing. And not to mention that life's lessons were always be realistic, life isn't easy, dreams don't come true like that, good fortune only basically touches the good people, fate is not kind, you're not strong enough, you're not good enough, you're not, for example, especially for males, masculine enough, you're not man enough. For females, they repress your femininity. Or it can also be something more passive, where you might have been really, really talented as a child at something, or really good at something, let's say a subject, or it can be absolutely anything, but your talent, your skill, your passion even as a child for something truly shined. It almost screamed, yet neither, maybe not even your teachers or parents or everyone was blind to it. And it really left a very bitter taste. And this Five of Cups energy was like following you like a shadow through life, where it made it so hard for you, not necessarily to believe in yourself, but to enjoy life, to enjoy the inner child's expression, lightheartedness, for you to be able to truly trust people, to love people, to allow people to get near you. And many times, because of this shadowy Five of Cups energy, almost like a demon just following you. Many times, of course, you created your own failures, or you started something wonderful and you just couldn't finish it, you couldn't complete it because your emotional strength left you immediately. And this makes you like, when you feel that spark of imagination, passion, that special kind of fantasy, and you start something no matter what it is, many times it burns out so quickly that you just simply cannot finish it. And there is a part of you, the most beautiful part, the inner child, which you really protect. You don't show anyone just how truly beautiful your soul is, just how wonderful your imagination is, that you're full of beauty, that you're full of creativity, passion, and you're genuinely a positive person, an optimistic person. You believe in the beauty of life, in the beauty of everything, and yet, without even wanting this, sometimes you show the total opposite to everyone around you. Sometimes people see you as quite pessimistic because there is that pattern inside of you to be realistic, to be totally down on earth, not to be a child, not to be immature, not to take things lightly. And that was like really soul shattering a lot of times because you couldn't help it. But of course, the Two of Swords is reversed. Not only are you through with this, but I think you really made a lot of effort, a lot of work on yourself, a lot of healing, a lot of psychological techniques, or maybe you even visited a counselor where you successfully managed not just to stop the pattern, but to truly this time abandon the Five of Cups, to abandon abandonment, and also to forgive, not to regret those opportunities which you missed out on as a child. Like, let me just give you some examples which for many people out there would be unforgivable. Holidays, or, getting the best grade, being the best at something, and going home and showing it and no one having any reaction. Or lonely birthdays where it was just you who celebrated, not going on adventures, or instead of you crying on the shoulder of your mom or parent, it was the opposite, and no, it wasn't easy. But you forgave, so there is a lot of healing here. So what this lunar eclipse is going to produce in your life, and the thing is that the energy, the manifestation, the power of the eclipse, well, it will start 2 weeks before the eclipse. The eclipse takes place on 26th of May 2021. So 2 weeks before that, all these memories, all these feelings, all this inner psychological energy is going to be somehow re-evoked, remembered. This Five of Cups will once again return into your life as an energy where you can just feel it but not have real reasons for it. And as I said, you're already healed, you already let it go, forgave, released, done everything that you could. So that's why it might hit you as a surprise. Why are you still feeling that? Or where do these memories come and haunt you from? But this is where they will just enter into your life like the ghosts from the past, like an empathic echo, because this is exactly where the eclipse will strike. it will energetically and karmically cut the cord for good. It will sever this, how should I say, immersion into that timeline. It is almost like that is a different life, that is a different existence, and basically that person was purified from the sorrow, from the guilt, from the shame, and it returned into a most innocent and pure and life-loving child. So basically that Five of Cups shadowy energy, it is almost like throwing a diamond into ashes, black, dark ashes, and shining a light on it so it can see itself, it can see its innocence, its purity, its true self for what it is. So this foreshadowing, this 2 weeks is almost like the ashes, the coal, highlighting the contrast that the inner child has not suffered irreversible wounds and damages. It is actually the contrary. It healed, it regenerated, and it is coming to life. And also, there might be a female spirit protecting you, like either a grandmother or a feminine energy who really wants this for you to get your justice, for you to be able to embrace that which was taken away from you. So it's investing all of its spiritual, like spirit power or energy into the karmic forces to make sure that you are aware that you deserve this so very much, and also that you can release all the pains and wounds and just re-embrace the innocence of the inner child and remember how innocent, good-willed and good-intended you were, even at the time when you draw the first breath. And what's more important is that when you were a child, you were so very part of the spirit world. Either you could sense spirits, or basically mystery and magic was all around you. You couldn't share this with everyone, but you lived some very magical, very fantastic experiences, and it made you so very happy. And it was through your dreams that these spiritual energies always manifested. And it's not just dreams as in night dreams, but daydreams. You kind of fantasized your way out of that horrible experience, the horrible past. It is like you daydreamed your whole life out of the troubles, and it was that daydream, that fantasy, which somehow protected the core of who you are. But that wasn't just a trick of the mind. It was actually the spiritual powers that accompanied you ever since you were born. Almost like when they couldn't help you from the exterior, they went inside, they symbolically possessed you, so that the disappointment and the sorrow just cannot touch the inner child, the core of who you truly are. So now the eclipse is gonna be an extremely powerful spiritual one, where besides the healing, besides the clarity of why all of this happened to you, and why all of this happened to you is that basically you reversed the course of fate, in the sense that you chose to experience all the darker side of life when you were a child, because you as a spirit knew that it could not defeat you, it cannot take away your innocence. And then when you become an adult, you won't have to project that onto anyone, and you don't have to hurt anyone. You can just be a child for the rest of your life, and no one can stop you. No one can tell you anything. You will never believe one word that anyone ever says to you which opposes the innocence of the inner child. It's like a self-defense mechanism. Criticism, grow up, be real, all of that just falls off you as if, dirt washes off of a laminated surface. It's immune. It's nothing can truly touch it. So basically what that means is power, magic, innocence, the power to dream stuff into existence, and also to help people who have been going through life just like you, who were deeply wounded, but because you're that much powerful, you can actually help people who have no hope anymore in their lives. But that's the big picture of your life path. This eclipse is giving you not just the healing, not just the spiritual power, but it will make one of your childhood dreams, which you couldn't live, true. And when you get the chance to live that dream, well, it will basically feed your soul, or better said, light the inner fire, the thirst for life, where it will just make you whole again. But what that dream is, well, I'm not sure. It is the Three of Wands reverse, an aspiration, maybe somewhere that you wanted to go, or someone you wanted to go with. It can mean travel, it can mean crossing a body of water, sea, or seaside, even meeting an old childhood friend who you were separated from, but who was like a best friend soulmate. Actually, they were destined to be that, but you couldn't live that as a child. Or some kind of justice, Two of Swords reversed. Your justice, your truth. The true reflection of who you are. Or it can also be like a truly life-changing inspiration. But at the same time, we can look at it from a slightly different way. Maybe it is a big fear, one of your biggest fears, coming to life, but take this in the most positive sense, because someone who was wounded when they were young, maybe they fear love, maybe they fear, unconsciously of course, the pleasures, the joys, the exaltment of life, great prosperity, fame, or something which you fear, but in an unconscious way, and it's something positive. When your fears come to life, it's usually something negative, but it can work out in a very twisted way in the opposite sense. But if we translate that, basically, it's a dream, something that you missed out, coming true. So thank you so much for listening, and wish you a blessed and magical eclipse. So this concludes today's pick a card reading. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the likes, shares, and wonderful comments. I do hope that this managed to inspire you, or to make you smile at least a little bit. If you'd like to support my work and my channel, you can donate on the PayPal link in the description below. With this being said, I wish everyone a wonderful and magical eclipse. May the karmic forces truly reward you, and make your deepest faith, your deepest belief come to life before your eyes. Thank you again. Until next time, bye for now.